keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Let the doors be open. Que l'on ouvre les portes. Statements by members. Déclaration de député. The Honourable Member for Humber River, Black Creek.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Anne was born on April the 14th, 1921, in Portland, Ontario, on a farm that remains in her family today. As a student in a one-room schoolhouse, she proudly earned good grades and school prizes. She places an importance on education, clearly, as her 3 daughters and one of her granddaughters are education professionals. A dedicated pre-war and post-war D&D employee, and married Francois Gagnon of the RCAF. She is the proud mother of 3 daughters, Nanny to her grandchildren and Gigi to her great-grandchildren. A woman of many hobbies, and sewed fashionable outfits for her daughters, granddaughters, and their Barbie dolls. She enjoys painting, watching political news, she favors the color red, and watching golf, and Tiger Woods is her favorite. More enjoyable while sipping on Manhattan. Anne lives by the motto, it's only a number. You're as old as you'll feel. Happy 100th birthday, Anne. May you have many more to come.
The Honourable Member, l'Honourable Député de Halifax.
The Honourable Member for Halifax.
Mr. Speaker, last month Canada lost a businessman, philanthropist, arts patron, family man, and Nova Scotian, the likes of which we may not see again. Today I invite members in this House to join me in paying tribute to the life of Donald Creighton Ray Sobey. Starting in the basement of his family's grocery store in New Glasgow, Nova Scotia, Donald went on to become president and later chairman of Sobey's parent company, Empire. Donald will also be remembered for his commitment to post-secondary education, delivering a variety of significant scholarships, as well as his passion for the arts, best expressed through his creation of the Sobey Art Award, which is today the preeminent prize for contemporary Canadian art. Donald was a fiercely proud Nova Scotian who believed in the promise of our province and its people. In 2014, he was appointed to the Order of Canada, and yet he taught us all that you're never too important to be nice to people. Donald Sobey lived a full life of purpose and charity. I invite all members and all Canadians to join me in offering our sincere condolences to his family and loved ones.
The Honourable Member for Regina, Wascana.
Mr. Speaker, it is my pleasure to highlight the cooperation between the Western Hockey League and the Government of Saskatchewan in designating Regina the hub city for the East Division of the league. Sports at all levels have suffered during the pandemic, but the use of the hub city model has proven to be an effective approach to keeping athletes on the ice while maintaining strict health and safety protocols. On February 20th, teams from Saskatchewan and Manitoba arrived in Regina to begin their quarantine period. A 24-game season began on March 12th. Players, coaches, and staff are required to undergo weekly PCR tests, daily symptom checks, and masks are required at all times except when on the ice. These measures have allowed hockey fans in Western Canada to enjoy the season while maintaining the health and safety of the players and the community. To the teams of the WHL East Division, welcome to Regina.
The Honourable Member for Thérèse de Blainville. Mr. Speaker, the Social and Educational Centre will be opening its doors in Blainville, and that's great news for young people in the ridings of Thérèse de Blainville and Rivière-des-Mille-Îles. This centre is the culmination of a project that has been led for 3 years by 3 organizations of the Thérèse de Blainville RCM, the Omega Center, the organization École de Lettres, and the Panda Association. These organizations have decided to pool their resources in order to create an innovative multi-service center to meet the needs of young people. This will also allow families to access complementary services, helping their youth to contribute to schools and society. Congratulations to the organization's partners, the City of Blainville, for having seen this project through. Thank you.
L'honorable député d'Orléans.
The Honourable Member for Orleans. Mr. Speaker, last week I had the pleasure of addressing 2 online classes of civics and citizenship as part of the virtual online learning program. I'd like to thank Ms. Fraser, who is a teacher with the Eastern Ontario Francophone Public School Board, for her invitation to meet with over 50 15-year-old students. We discussed the work of MPs, community engagement, and the challenges linked to COVID. I also had the privilege of responding to a number of questions from these students who showed great interest and who were extremely professional. We have very engaged young Canadians, and I'm proud of them. I'd like to thank them for their warm welcome. I wish them much success, and I hope they find a career that makes them passionate. These are the leaders of today and tomorrow, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Mr. Speaker, my constituents are sick of COVID-19. They want to hear a plan from the government to get us out of this pandemic and to move us towards recovery. Getting out of the pandemic means making vaccines available to Canadians and ramping up testing. Restrictive lockdown measures that Canadians now face result from the failure of the government to deliver in these vital areas. But I believe that a brighter future is just around the corner. Canadians want an end to the pandemic, and they want a recovery plan. A plan that recognizes the value and dignity of all work in all sectors of the economy and in all regions of the country. Conservatives have presented an ambitious, optimistic recovery plan. Secure jobs by recovering the 1 million jobs lost during the pandemic. Create a strategic stockpile of essential products. Secure accountability, secure mental health. Secure Canada's economy by balancing the budget over the next decade. Canadians are ready for a government that is focused on hope for recovery instead of on justifying failure. A government which believes that our best days are ahead. A government that once again believes that better is possible.
The Honourable Member for Brampton South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This April is a month when many faith and cultural communities are celebrating important holidays. Grace United Church and other churches celebrated Easter, Gauri Shankar Mandir and other mandirs celebrated Navratri. Tamil community celebrates Pattandu today. Nepali community celebrated the New Year. Guru Nanak Langar and Seva Food Bank delivered food to those in need as a way to celebrate Vaisakhi and demonstrate their selfless service. Taha Musalla, Masjid Mubarak, and other mosques are now safely observing Ramadan. Throughout Brampton, culture and faith organizations are continuing to serve Bramptonians and find new virtual ways to connect with the community. Many Canadians are getting support from culture and faith organizations. I want to thank them and all frontline workers for the support they are providing in Brampton South and across Canada. Throughout the COVID pandemic, we are fully reminded that diversity is our strength, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Etobicoke North.
Mr. Speaker, it's International Day of Pink when we renew our commitment to diversity and inclusion. Today and always, we stand in solidarity with the LGBTQ2+ community here in Canada and everywhere. 14 years ago, students at a high school in Nova Scotia saw their classmate bullied for wearing a pink shirt. The next day, students wore pink shirts to support their classmate, an act that resonated around the world. All of us can learn from their example by coming together and standing up so that everyone can be their authentic self. To all those who feel alone, anxious, or hurt, you are not alone. You are loved and supported. Today, we say yes to compassion, empathy, and standing up for one another. We say no to bullying and hurtful words that leave long-lasting and emotional scars. Today and always, let's lift each other up and make sure everyone belongs.
The Honourable Member for Central Okanagan, Similkameen Nicola.
Mr. Speaker, recently I met with a witness of a tragic hit-and-run accident. For a passing-by motorist to find a young woman severely injured lying in the gutter next to a wintry highway, it was a deeply traumatic experience for this witness. But as this witness reminded me, This is the reality for our first responders every single day. This pandemic has been hard on everyone, but even more so for those on our front lines who face new risks on top of horrible tragedies and accidents. In British Columbia, where we have a significant increase in opioid deaths, it is also our first responders who are the first on the scene. As parliamentarians will know, often in the spring in this place, we would be visited in person by representatives of many of our first responders. This year, we will not have that opportunity. I would ask all members of this place to join me in sincerely thanking our first responders for this incredibly important work that they do every day on our behalf. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Hull Aylmer.
Jusqu'à présent.
To date, Mr. Speaker, 2021 has been a difficult year for my community. We've lost a number of exceptional citizens, and today I would like to share with you my great sadness on the occasion of the passing of Micheline Lemieux, who passed in her sleep on March 21st at the age of 70. Everyone knew her, especially as she zipped around Old Aylmer on her bike. Her community involvement was legendary. She worked for the Aylmer Heritage Association. She was the founding member of Option Femmes Emploi. She worked for the Aylmer BIA and for the Museum of the Auberge Sim, l'Imagier Exhibition Centre, and the Forêt Boucher Foundation. This is just an overview of her engagement, and my community is stronger thanks to her efforts. Sincere condolences to her family, and I am so grateful for you for having lent Micheline to us. Her legacy is genuine, solid, and will last for a very long time. We will miss her tremendously. Rest in peace, dear Micheline.
The Honourable Member for Chilliwack Hope.
It is my honor to recognize the 118th anniversary of the Labour International Union of North America. From its start in 1903 as a construction union, its members can now be found working in all sectors of the economy. In its proud history, LIUNA has played an important role in building strong communities. They help ensure working men and women enjoy the benefits of a growing economy and give workers the security of knowing that no matter what challenges they face, they're never alone. Recently, LIUNA stood up for the thousands of union workers whose jobs were lost with the cancellation of the Keystone XL pipeline. They're working tirelessly to defend the thousands of family-supporting union jobs now at risk with the possible shutdown of Line 5. To LIUNA and the over 100,000 workers and retirees they represent in Canada, congratulations on 118 years of standing up for working Canadians, and happy anniversary.
The Honourable Member for Stormont Dundas, South Glengarry.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. It has been 5 months since I confronted the Health Minister in the House of Commons here about the government's broken promise to end the blood ban. Gay, bisexual, and trans men in this country for far too long have had to live with a stigma through Canadian Blood Services and Héma-Québec's policies. The Prime Minister, the Health Minister, and everybody on the government side committed 6 years ago to eliminate this. Not to study it, not to review it, not to talk about it more, but to actually act. Mr. Speaker, yesterday I launched a video about my personal story of how about 17 years ago I went to donate blood and couldn't, simply because I was gay. I encourage Canadians across the country to visit endthebloodban.ca. The time for talk, the time for word salad and virtue signaling is over. It is time to end the discriminatory blood ban in this country once and for all.
The Honourable Member for Algoma, Manitoulin, Kapuskasing.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, under the procedures of the Companies Creditors Arrangement Act, Laurentian University is cancelling the only French-language midwifery program that serves Northern Ontario. In a region that has trouble finding physicians, midwives help to close the gap by ensuring that pregnant women receive the best primary care for giving birth and even more.
Indigenous students, many of whom return to provide midwife services in their home communities. As we work through the pandemic to protect healthcare workers and hospital resources, canceling programs that help women safely give birth at home makes little sense. This decision will cost the public more as fewer midwives are available for the North and across Ontario, and more doctors are needed to deliver babies. The CCAA was never intended for public institutions, and these cuts to healthcare courses limits opportunities in the North for Indigenous, Francophone, and racialized students and reduces access to services women rely on. We must act now.
Yes.
The Honourable Member for Repentigny. 400,000 deaths, over 6 million refugees, and tens of thousands of disappeared and detained, in addition to 12 million people who are starving. That is 10 years of war in Syria, Mr. Speaker. And this humanitarian disaster has given rise to solidarity that we've seen very rarely in Quebec. In my community, people have come together to help a Syrian family. They have welcomed and helped the Ishtai family as this family integrated into Canada. Words cannot express the emotion I felt on February 29, 2020, when Basel, Alafif, Zia, Bizan, and Susie opened the door to their very own home, where they live now. There they were before me with broad smiles, whereas in 2017, these Syrian refugees were crammed into a tiny room in Lebanon, where they had covered the walls with French phrases, dreaming of the day that they could come to Quebec. Thank you for having enriched Quebec with your presence. Thank you for having chosen to live in French. And thank you for trying to help us build our country.
The Honourable Member for Lethbridge.
Over the last 13 months, Canadians have significantly overhauled their lives. In order to accommodate government-imposed restrictions, the Liberal government dangled hope in front of them, telling Canadians that if they followed the rules, if they stayed at home, if they closed their businesses, if they social distanced, then things would go back to normal very soon. 13 months, and there's still no plan. Hope is starting to wane. Lockdowns have resulted in businesses permanently closing. Loved ones have been lost. Hope is waning. We need a Prime Minister who seeks the solution for what is at stake here. We need a Prime Minister who sees people as the answer, not government. Because it is Canadians who ultimately are the problem solvers and the solution makers and the wealth generators, the ones who will get us out of this current state. And as part of the Conservative Recovery Plan, we are committed to unleashing the power of the workforce and recovering the 1 million jobs that have been lost during this pandemic. As Conservatives, we will implement a strategy to restore this country to the powerhouse nation that it was always meant to be and can be. We will secure the future for Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Brampton North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This April, I'm raising awareness for Be a Donor Month. When you become a tissue and organ donor, you can change somebody's life forever by giving them an opportunity for a better and healthier life. One organ donor has the potential to save 8 lives, and since 2003, over 20,000 Ontarians have received a life-saving transplant. Unfortunately, while great progress has been made, there are still 1,600 Ontarians waiting for a transplant, including 24 patients in my riding of Brampton North. I'm proud to be a registered organ donor and want to thank organizations like Amar Karma, who raise awareness on organ donations amongst the South Asian community, and Trillium Gift of Life Network for delivering and coordinating organ donations. Every single one of us, age 16 and older, and regardless of medical conditions, can sign up to be an organ donor at beadonor.com. I encourage each and every one of you to take 2 minutes to register today and help save someone's life tomorrow.
Before we go to oral questions, I just want to remind the honourable members that the SO31s are 60 seconds. I didn't cut anybody off, and I really don't want to cut anyone off because I know how important the messages are. But I just want to remind everyone, and when they're practicing, just keep it to 60. Oral questions, question orale, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, CNN, Forbes magazine, and The Atlantic have all covered this government's disastrous vaccine rollout just in the last week. The severe third wave Canadians are experiencing right now is the direct result of the months it has taken for Canada to secure vaccines. Is the Prime Minister satisfied that his vaccine rollout has now become an international embarrassment?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as we make it through this third wave, we're going to continue to have to hold on even longer, even as even as vaccines are arriving in record numbers into Canada. We have delivered 11.7 million vaccines to provinces and territories. 20% of Canadians have received at least their first dose, and we are now actually third in the G20 in terms of Canadians who've received a vaccine. This is promising, but we know there's much more to do, and that's why we are working day and night to ensure the delivery of more doses even quicker.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, over 300,000 doses of the Moderna vaccine that were supposed to be delivered to Ontario last week have still not arrived. Maybe they just still have to hold on, as the Prime Minister told them. Mass vaccination clinics are now closing as a result of his failure to deliver. Schools are closing across the country. How much worse is the third wave going to have to get before this Prime Minister realizes he's failed Canadians?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Every single week, Mr. Speaker, we receive 1 million doses of Pfizer, which will rise to 2 million doses a week in the month of June, with more doses hopefully coming even sooner than that. Moderna continues to deliver millions of doses as well. There have been challenges with the Moderna procurement system that has caused a few days of delay here and there, but we are keeping provinces apprised every single step of the way of all the delivery timelines, of the expectations, of any challenges with it. The cooperation with the provinces has been significant throughout.
I just want to, the Honourable Member for Saanich Gulf Island has a point of order. I just want to check, is it a technical issue?
Yes, it is, Mr. Speaker. Those of us in virtual Parliament are unable to hear the Prime Minister's response because one of the honourable members was accidentally off mute.
Okay. What we'll do then is we'll start right from the beginning. We'll let the Honourable Leader of the Opposition ask the question again and let the Prime Minister answer again. Please.
Mr. Speaker, once again, 300,000 doses of the Moderna vaccine that the government promised for Ontario last week have not been delivered. The Prime Minister says from time to time deliveries have not come. He's also months behind the developed world, Mr. Speaker. Mass vaccination clinics are closing in Ontario. Schools are closing in Ontario. The severity of the third wave in Canada lays at the feet of this Prime Minister. When will he admit he has failed Canadians?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we see that whenever the Leader of the Opposition has a chance, he goes to disinformation and misleading Canadians. We are not months behind the developed world. On the contrary, we are now third in the G20 when it comes to delivering vaccines to Canadians. We will continue to ensure that vaccines flow, and we will continue to keep our partners in the provinces and territories apprised of delivery schedules, of delivery delays like we do see of a few days here and there on Moderna. We will continue to deliver Pfizer on time and all the other vaccines as quickly as we possibly can. When we get them, we send them to the provinces immediately.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
This is the worst moment of the pandemic thus far. Those are the words, Mr. Speaker, of the President of the University Health Network in Toronto. The Prime Minister's big lift is the big letdown. That's right. It's months later than other countries. Other countries are reopening, Mr. Speaker. We're going back into lockdown, and it's going to be the worst because we're months behind, courtesy of this Prime Minister. How does the Prime Minister expect Canadians and provinces to fight COVID-19 when he's months behind on getting us the vaccines?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I appreciate the Leader of the Opposition bringing up the challenges facing Ontario right now, and I can assure them that we are working and reaching out to Ontario to help through this period of crisis that they are going through. I've heard the calls from doctors in Ontario Health Networks, concerned residents of high challenge areas that aren't getting the support that they need. The federal government, as we always are, will be there to support the province as it delivers for vulnerable Canadians.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, CNN and a number of media sources from around the world all covered the insufficient vaccine rollout of this government this week. The third wave that is hitting Canadians is the direct result of the long waiting time for people to get vaccinated. Why does the Prime Minister not accept that the deployment of his vaccine, the rollout, is shameful? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we promised to deliver 6 million doses of the vaccine for March. We have delivered many more. Even a few weeks later, we've already reached 12 million doses delivered, and this will continue to accelerate. We are now third among the developed G20 countries in terms of deliveries of vaccines to residents. We will continue to do more. We are working day and night to ensure the delivery of even more vaccines, even more quickly, because we know that is how we will get through this together. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. Mr. Speaker, today this is the worst time to wait for a vaccine dose. Canadians are concerned about their health. The Prime Minister is asking us to be patient, but the U.S. is reopening, and yet we are still in lockdown. Is the slowness of the Prime Minister's the cause of the third wave, a more severe third wave? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. No, Mr. Speaker, we're all working together to fight the third wave, and I must highlight the efforts of many of the provinces to deliver vaccines quickly as soon as they arrive. We will continue to be there to help with the millions of doses that will arrive in coming weeks. We will continue to be there to support Canadians to get through this crisis. We will hold strong with the restrictions because this third wave is quite severe, and I encourage everyone to follow the public health authorities' directives and to get vaccinated as soon as possible. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To manage the aerospace industry challenge, I imagine that we have to be on the right track, and he confused industry assistance and sweet deal with Friends of Air Canada. But the agreement does not guarantee services in Quebec capitals or competition, and it benefits a country who has a past record that isn't so great. Will regional transportation authorities benefit from this? And if they don't follow the rules of Air Canada, or is Air Canada funded by the federal government for once again, yet again, to break the backs of the regional? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we know that it's very important to protect the workers in the air industry, and airlines and internal or domestic competition will continue. And we will continue to ensure that the regions are well served. We will ensure that Air Canada customers and customers of any other airlines get the refunds. We will also make sure that there will be assistance for the aerospace industry. We know how important it is to move forward and to prepare for a strong return after the pandemic, and that's exactly what we're doing. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Let's talk about refunds. The agreement is so good for Air Canada that it seems like it was negotiated between Air Canada and Air Canada. For example, to get a refund for a ticket, consumers must fill out a written request. The federal government allows Air Canada to ask for this written request when they have all the information they need, and people can't necessarily make the request. And in fact, this deal is funded by taxpayers' money. Is the Prime Minister complicit with Air Canada? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Since the beginning, Mr. Speaker, we have been there for travelers, for workers in the air industry, and we will be there for consumers as well. We have gotten guarantees that people will get refunds. We are also here to ensure that services will continue to be offered to the regions, and we will protect jobs. This is good news for the Canadian air industry, but also good news for Canadians. The Honourable Member for Burnaby South. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yesterday, the Prime Minister said that his government was working on a plan to vaccinate Canadians and had been working on the plan since last summer. Now we have a record number of COVID-19 cases. There are high numbers of people who are in hospital in intensive care. These numbers are rising. It's clear that this is an urgent COVID-19 crisis. It's the third wave which is hitting hard. Will the Prime Minister admit that his plan is not working and he needs to change it? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. We recognize that at present in some regions of the country there is problems with COVID-19. There are other regions that are going better, but we will continue to work to support the regions that are hard hit, like Ontario, with the federal government support, be it with the Canadian Forces, the Red Cross, which is helping in long-term care homes, be it in terms of resources and rapid testing, or be it our continued efforts to obtain more vaccines more quickly in order to get through this crisis.
Member for Burnaby South.
We are in the middle of a third wave of COVID-19, which is hitting hard. We recently learned that Scarborough Hospital had to cancel 10,000 vaccination appointments in communities for people that are hard hit. These are the frontline workers, often racialized in communities where they can't work from home. They have to go into work. These communities and these members had to now no longer have access to their vaccine simply because there's not enough dose. The Liberal government has failed to secure enough dose. And people are frustrated. Canadians are angry, and they want to know how the Prime Minister let things get so bad.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we recognize that things are getting very bad, particularly in Ontario, and that's why we are continuing to be there to support the Ford government as it is working forward to try and vaccinate and support more people. We know there are massive challenges, but there are also an issue that we are continuing to work on, which is delivering more vaccines every single week to the provinces. We know that's the way we get through it, and in the meantime, we will always be there to support provinces as they face the challenges that this pandemic is bringing.
The Honourable Member for Chicoutimi-Le Fjord. Mr. Speaker, Canada made international headlines and not for the right reasons. Canada's pandemic management has been a failure. The popular American news network CNN even devoted a report to it. The only one who doesn't seem to realize this is the Prime Minister, who even went so far as to say that we need to stick to the facts when it comes to the CNN report. Does the Prime Minister still believe that CNN is spreading fake news? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, with the progress that we have had in terms of vaccine deliveries, we've delivered 11.3 million doses across the country. We're now at third in the G20 in terms of vaccines. We know that there is still much work that remains to be done. This is something we are doing every day in order to get more doses more quickly. In the meantime, we will continue to do everything that is necessary in order to support the provinces and territories, support small businesses, help families get through this third wave. The Honourable Member for Chicoutimi-Le Fjord. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister wants to stick to the facts, so let's do that. Instead of coordinating with the U.S. on pandemic management, the Liberal government has preferred instead to cooperate with China. We've just surpassed the U.S. in terms of cases per capita per million. The provinces are now in another extended lockdown. We've been reacting since the start. Will the Prime Minister admit that his handling of the pandemic has been a failure? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the so-called facts put forward by the member opposite are completely nonsensical. Since the beginning, we've been working to coordinate with the United States in order to coordinate on the border and have a harmonized approach when it comes to the management of the pandemic. We will continue to work with our friends, our allies, in order to get through this crisis. We know that we will not get out of this pandemic if we do not get out of it altogether, and we have to take part in international efforts. We will always do what is necessary to help Canadians to get through this crisis. The Honourable Member for Chicoutimi-Le Fjord. Mr. Speaker, I don't know if we live in the same universe, but the facts speak for themselves. 20% of Americans have received both doses of their vaccines, but only 2% of Canadians have. Media are reporting low vaccine inventory and a heavy dependency on other countries. We weren't prepared. We've been reacting. Instead of taking action 13 months ago, somebody slept at the wheel while other countries were getting organized. Will the Prime Minister admit that he dropped the ball when it came to the vaccines? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. On the contrary, Mr. Speaker, since the very beginning of last summer, we negotiated with the producing companies of potential vaccines in order to have a very diversified portfolio, more diversified than almost any other country, to have more doses for Canadians than in any other country in the world. At the same time, we have worked with these companies in order to deliver more and more doses. We're third among the G20 countries. More than 20% of our population has already received at least one dose. We will continue to deliver for Canadians. We will continue to get through this pandemic together.
Honourable member for Calgary Nose Hill.
Yesterday, British magazine The Spectator wrote this about our Prime Minister. The Premier, best known for ethics scandals and blackface pictures, claims that the UK is facing a very serious third wave, despite figures showing that the UK has currently the lowest case rates in Europe. This isn't the only misinformation the Prime Minister has spread. His government said border measures do more harm than good and that masks don't work. With his track record, is the Prime Minister concerned that Canadians no longer trust the government with their health and safety?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
On the contrary, Mr. Speaker, every step of the way we have worked with experts and scientists to ensure that is first and foremost how we move through this pandemic. We have led the way on measures that have kept Canadians safe. We have been there to support provinces and territories as they've had to make difficult decisions on restrictions by supporting them with PPE, with rapid tests, but also with measures that help small businesses, that help families, that help workers, that help us all get through this pandemic. It is an extremely difficult time, Mr. Speaker, but we're going to get through it together by continuing to work together.
Honourable member for Calgary Nose Hill.
You know, that misinformation is really tough. I mean, it was the Liberal health minister under this Prime Minister who said that people shouldn't wear masks and was photographed without a mask in an airport. While other countries were planning a massive vaccination campaign, the Prime Minister spent last summer in a cloud of scandal after giving $900 million to an outfit that paid his mother for speaking gigs. When asked this week if he could have done anything better, the Prime Minister said no. Why won't he show some contritions while Canadians get infected by the variants?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, it is concerning but also symptomatic of the Conservative Party of Canada that they would pick someone to be their health critic who then gives a question listing a whole bunch of facts that are simply not correct.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Nose Hill.
You know, Mr. Speaker, CNN's Jake Tapper just called that type of spin true anon. I really hope that sticks. You know, Canadians deserve better. There are zoo animals that are being vaccinated in the United States, while Quebec is reporting a wave of femicides because women are locked down with their abusers. The variants are spreading across the country. If we had had vaccines in January and February, while the rest of the world was rolling them out, we would not be in this situation. And does the Prime Minister really think that that's going to cut it and that Canadians will keep allowing him to pass the buck while people get infected with variants and ICUs fill up?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we have worked closely with provinces and territories across this country to manage the pandemic. Now, yes, there have been provinces that are harder hit than others, the member opposite's province being a notable challenge that has faced issues recently, but we have consistently been there to support those provinces, to help people with direct aids for families, for small businesses, to get our economy roaring back, and we have continued to hit our milestones in terms of vaccines and surpass them because we need to deliver for Canadians, which is exactly what we are doing.
The Honourable Member for Berthier-Masquinongé. Mr. Speaker, the quarantine of temporary foreign workers is still a fiasco. Having already abdicated all its responsibilities towards farmers, the federal government mandated Switch Health to manage the mandatory Day 10 COVID tests. The result? Our Francophone farmers are losing days trying to get service from an Anglophone company that is not keeping up with demand. Workers can remain in isolation up to 20 days, before they get their results. The UPA and Ferm Foundation have solutions. Will the Prime Minister listen to them? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we will always support our farmers, on whom we depend greatly during the pandemic and in other moments as well. We recognize that there are challenges when it comes to temporary foreign workers and the testing. We will continue to work with Quebec and with the organizations responsible to ensure that we can resolve these challenges and that we can always be there to help to support our farmers and the essential work they do. The Honourable Member for Berthier-Masquinongé. Mr. Speaker, in addition to the outrage of giving a mandate to a company unable to provide service to Francophones, there is a serious problem with delays, which is costing producers dearly. It's the beginning of the season with 500 or 600 temporary foreign workers, and Switch Health is already overwhelmed. What's going to happen when it goes up to 14,000? This is the same company that was responsible for testing everybody crossing the borders. Will the Prime Minister ensure that agricultural workers won't have to isolate longer than necessary as a result of administrative delays? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, like the Honourable Member, I am very concerned by the situation. We are following up to ensure that we provide the necessary support to our farmers. They are providing essential services this year and every year, and we want them to be able to succeed. We will be there, as we have always been, for our farmers.
Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, and Rideau Lakes.
Was the Prime Minister looking in the mirror when he said, quote, "It's hard not to feel disappointed in your government when every day there is a new scandal," end quote. That's the MO of this Prime Minister. He breaks the law, he gets caught, he deflects, and then he covers it up time and time again. Canadians deserve good, ethical governance, but that won't stop this Prime Minister from doing whatever it takes to save his own political skin. When will this Prime Minister start putting the needs of Canadians ahead of his own?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, while Conservatives focus on personal partisan attacks, we're focused on Canadians. I made a straightforward promise to Canadians at the very beginning of this pandemic that we would have their backs for as long as it takes, with as much as it takes. And that's exactly what we have done every step of the way. We continue to work hard day and night to get more vaccines into Canada. We're continuing to support small businesses, workers across the country, families, seniors, young people. We know we need to get through this pandemic as quickly as possible and bring the economy roaring back. That's exactly what we are focused on this side of the House.
Honourable Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, and Rideau Lakes.
There you have it. The Prime Minister has no intention of cleaning up his act, and he's fine with being a global laughingstock and punching bag. He blocked investigations by law enforcement, by officers of Parliament, by parliamentary committees, whether it's at the Ethics Committee or the Defence Committee. Once the opposition starts asking tough questions, he denies, he deflects, and when he doesn't get his way, he shuts down Parliament. What will it take for this repeat offender to get the message that the laws apply to him?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, Conservatives continue to focus on me while we focus on Canadians. We are going to continue to be there to support Canadians through this pandemic with direct supports, with supports for businesses, with more vaccines, more rapid tests, more contact tracing. We're going to continue to focus on the things that matter to Canadians as we get through this pandemic and as we build back better for a greener, more prosperous, fairer Canada. That's exactly what we are focused on. The Conservatives can continue to play politics if they want.
The Honourable Member for Mégantic-l'Érable. Mr. Speaker, every day Canadians are shocked to see just how creative this government can get in order to help its friends, as we saw with regard to the We Charity scandal. When it comes to returning favors, the Prime Minister is very, very generous. Costs for consultants rose by $6 billion over the past 6 years. Expenditures for legal and other services have never been higher. And it's all Canadians who are paying the cost. Can the Prime Minister tell us how much of these taxpayer dollars went into his friends' pockets? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, as a government, we have always based ourselves on facts and data when it comes to delivering for Canadians. What we have seen over the past 6 years is that it's worked. More than 1 million Canadians are able to get out of poverty, including 300,000 children, be it the millions of jobs that we created in the first 5 years. We are here to deliver for Canadians, and we depend on experts who know how to do this. We are here to listen to those who have ideas. The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable. What's bred in the bone will come out in the flesh. An increase of $6 billion in consultants' costs, that's a lot of money, a real lot of money. This Prime Minister said nothing, as we saw in the SNC-Lavalin scandal, to help his friends. It ended with the expulsion from Cabinet of the first female Minister of Justice. That's not nothing. Is the wee Chandel-Scaredy not just the tip of the iceberg? Does the Prime Minister realize that his Liberal government's starting to smell like the sponsorship scandal? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. It's unfortunate that in the enthusiasm of personal attacks, even the Conservatives can forget the Minister of Justice, Kim Campbell, who was the first female Minister of Justice of the country. It's unfortunate that the Conservatives are forgetting the past. We will always be there to defend women. We will always be there to recognize historic events in our country.
I wish to remind the members that the way it works is that one asks a question and gets a response. We don't talk all at the same time.
Together, and I just wanted to remind everyone. The Honourable Member for London Fanshawe.
Laurentian University is a valued community hub in Northern Ontario, Canada's sole university with a tricultural mandate to support French, English, and Indigenous communities. Deep cuts and layoffs were announced this week. They threaten Francophone and Indigenous education, courses on violence against women, in-demand bilingual midwifery training, and world-class research. This government talks about supporting education, research, women, and reconciliation, but when it comes to taking action, they are absent. Will this government help to save Laurentian University?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, obviously we are deeply concerned and following the situation at Laurentian University very closely. We are in direct contact with the province on this issue. Our thoughts are with all of those who've lost their jobs and all the employees and students who are facing this difficult situation. We will continue to support post-secondary institutions because the future of our two official languages depend on them. We are prepared to work with our colleagues in Ontario to achieve this as education falls under their jurisdiction.
The Honourable Member for Timmins, James Bay.
Speaker, the lobbying registry shows that when the financial crisis hit Laurentian University, they lobbied the members for Sudbury and Nickel Belt numerous times, and nothing was done. And yet this Prime Minister himself used Laurentian University as a political backdrop when he visited Northern Ontario. And now this institution that's given generations of Francophone, Indigenous, and working-class youth is being torn apart, stripped through the use of the Bankruptcy Act. And this government sits on the sidelines. So I'm going to ask this Prime Minister, will he commit to working with us, and what steps will he take to keep Laurentian University from being ripped apart?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, just like we stood up for the Francophone University in Ontario a few years ago when there were concerns about its future, we will be there to defend and support Laurentian University as an institution, as an important institution for Franco-Ontarians and indeed for all Canadians with our official languages. We have reached out to the Ontario government to hear what their plan is for how we're going to move forward, and we are there to be partners on ensuring that this important institution doesn't falter. That's a priority for us. We will continue to work with the province on this issue.
L'honorable député d'Alfred Pellin.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, Canada has 1.6 million Canadians of Italian origin. It's the most significant Italian diaspora throughout the world.
Were interned for the simple reason that they were of Italian heritage. Parents were taken away from their homes, leaving children without their father in many cases, and families without a paycheck to put food on their table. Lives and careers, businesses and reputations were interrupted and ruined. And yet, no one was held responsible. Italian Canadians have lived with these memories for many years, and they deserve closure. Can the Prime Minister provide an update on a formal apology on behalf of the Government of Canada to the...
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Je remercie le député d'Alfred.
I would like to thank the member for Alfred Perrin for his question and for his work with the community.
Heritage, whose immigrant stories are so familiar, have earned the respect of a grateful nation. But Canadians of Italian heritage deal with ongoing discrimination related to mistakes made by our governments of the past that continue to affect them to this day. I'm proud to stand up and say that our government will right these wrongs with a formal apology in the month of May 2021. We thank them for choosing Canada as a place to call home. Merci beaucoup. Grazie a tutti.
L'honorable député de Louis.
The honourable member for Louis Saint Laurent. Mr. Speaker, by tabling complaints about sexual misconduct about the Chief of the Defence Staff, 2 Canadian military women demonstrated exceptional courage. On Monday, we saw just the opposite from the Bloc Québécois and the Liberal Party. At the Defence Committee, the Liberal Party and the Bloc Québécois shut down a parliamentary committee that was studying this difficult issue. Some people might find this funny, but not the victims. Why did the Bloc Québécois and the Liberal Party refuse to inquire into this matter? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the member knows full well that that committees are fully independent. The Minister of Defence participated in the committee study. He appeared before the committee for more than 6 hours. Our government refuses to tolerate any form of sexual misconduct. It's not time to be patient, it is time to act. The member for Louis Saint Laurent. We need the facts, and people who have them have to be able to speak. But the Liberal Party and their new friends, the Bloc Québécois, decided to work together and prevent the committee from working. The Liberal Party has maneuvered to ensure that the Trudeau II report was not part of a appearance before the Ethics Committee. What did the Liberal Party and what did the Bloc Québécois have to hide? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Once again, committees are fully independent and they make their own decisions about the work that they do. I wish to highlight that the frustration being expressed by the Conservatives is always connected to partisanship, and they're investing a lot of energy into attacks. Some members of the committees want to move forward, want to be able to act, and that's exactly what the committee decided to do last week. I would like to remind members that if they want to talk, they can get a little closer, as long as they maintain 2 meters distance. But yelling from one end of the chamber to the other is not very civil conduct for the chamber. Just a little reminder for the MPs. The honourable member for Aurora Richmond Hill.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals, with support from the Bloc, have shut down the investigation into abuse of power and sexual misconduct at the highest levels in the Canadian Armed Forces. Key witnesses haven't appeared, critical information hasn't been provided, and we still don't know how a CDS could remain in his position for 3 years with unresolved allegations of sexual misconduct against him. This Prime Minister may not care, but this matters to Canadians. Will the Prime Minister admit he has failed women in the military?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the member opposite well knows that committees are independent and they do important work. That's why the Minister of National Defence worked with the National Defence Committee on this matter extensively. He appeared for more than 6 hours on this study alone. As we have stated, our government will not stand for any form of sexual misconduct. Time for patience is over. The time for action is now.
Honourable member for Aurora, Oak Ridges, Richmond Hill.
So this Prime Minister maintains that there has been no wrongdoing by his government as the military failed to eradicate sexual misconduct in their ranks. After being made aware of the allegations against General Vance in 2018, the clerk of the Privy Council gave the Prime Minister a plan to replace him before the last election. Instead, the Prime Minister chose to reward him and make him the longest-serving Chief of the Defence Staff ever. Will the Prime Minister admit that he failed women in the military?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, anyone who serves in the Canadian Armed Forces deserves a safe work environment, deserves to be able to have supports and resources when they come forward with serious allegations. We know there is still much work to do in reforming the culture at the Canadian Armed Forces. We have taken significant steps over the past years, but it is clear that not enough has been done. We have more to do, and that's exactly what we are continuing to work on. We know we need to make significant improvements in many of our institutions, and that is something we are all working on together.
L'honorable député de Joliette.
The honourable member for Joliette. It's been 5 years since the Panama Papers scandal. Revenu Québec has managed to reclaim $21.2 million of this money hidden in tax havens. It's not a great deal, but it's more than what the federal government has been able to go get for all of Canada. And that leads me to the single income tax statement. The Liberals are against it because they say that Revenu Québec would not be able to fight tax evasion abroad. But we know that Quebec is already doing it better than Ottawa. Does that mean the Prime Minister will finally support the single income tax statement and allow the transfer of tax information from abroad to the province of Quebec? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, for months, the Canada Revenue Agency has been delivering directly for Canadians, especially for Quebecers. The CRA is so very present and so very significant in people's lives with CERB, with help for youth, with help for families. It is important to have a federal government that is present and engaged to support people when they're experiencing difficulties. It's not the time to be losing jobs in Quebec. It's not the time to be playing sovereignty games. It's time to work together as we are doing now. The honourable member for Joliette. Mr. Speaker, the National Assembly in Quebec has voted unanimously in favour of this, and we're seeing this Prime Minister is showing contempt for their will. It's evident that nothing is being done about tax havens. Quebec has already been able to reclaim more money through the Panama Papers than Canada as a whole. It's even more embarrassing when we compare Canada with other sovereign countries. For example, Canada has reclaimed 15 times less than the United Kingdom and 5 times less than Colombia. As the deficit balloons, when will the Prime Minister take the fight against tax havens seriously? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. On the contrary, Mr. Speaker, from the very beginning of our first mandate, we invested record sums into the CRA to fight tax evasion and avoidance. We've made significant changes, significant improvements, because we have to make sure that everyone pays their fair share. That's a principle that's guided us from the very beginning of our government and continues to orient our actions.
Halton Hills.
Mr. Speaker, it's come to light that the government threatened to cancel future funding for the Halifax Security Forum if they awarded the John McCain Prize to Taiwan's President Tsai Ing-wen. The government's attempt to silence those critical of China is shameful, and it plays right into China's desire to silence its critics abroad. Will the Prime Minister admit this was a mistake and commit to continuing to fund the Halifax International Security Forum, even if it awards the John McCain Prize to Taiwan's President Tsai Ing-wen?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Minister has already addressed this issue, including at committee yesterday. The government has supported and provided funding to the Halifax Security Forum throughout our time in office, and the Minister has participated every year and will continue to. On Taiwan, I've always supported Taiwan's meaningful participation in multilateral international forums, and Canada continues to have strong and growing trade and people-to-people relations with Taiwan.
The Honourable Member for Wellington, Halton Hills.
Monsieur le Président, déterminer l'origine de...
Mr. Speaker, determining the origin of the coronavirus is essential to prevent the next pandemic. However, we still don't know the exact origin. Chinese leaders have blocked the investigation by the World Health Organization. Will the Prime Minister say publicly that the WHO has given in to pressure from China, and will he work with our allies to demand reform of this organization?
Très honorable Premier.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, Canada is determined to work in cooperation with the WHO and international experts to understand the origins of the pandemic. There are some common concerns that we share about the recent study done by the WHO in China. We support a transparent and independent analysis of the origins of the pandemic. We will continue to work with our partners and allies to set up an independent process for future international assessments of unknown illnesses. The Honourable Member for Wellington Halton Hills.
Mr. Speaker, Taiwan's handling of the pandemic has been one of the world's most successful. With a population of only 23 million, it's only had 1,000 coronavirus cases and 10 deaths. Next month, countries will be participating in the WHO's annual meeting, but Taiwan has not been invited, even though it had observer status until 2017. On Monday in this House, the Foreign Affairs Minister referred to Taiwan as a country. In light of that position, does the government support Taiwan's participation at next month's meeting?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as a government, we have always been consistent in supporting Taiwan's meaningful participation in international fora. Taiwan's role as an observer in the World Health Assembly's meetings is in the interest of global health. We welcome the participation from the entire international community to work together to promote global health.
L'honorable député de Glengarry.
The Honourable Member for Glengarry Prescott Russell.
Monsieur le Président, notre gouvernement s'est engagé.
Mr. Speaker, our government is committed to protecting and supporting our agricultural producers and providing full and fair compensation to supply managed sectors due to market losses arising from recent free trade agreements. Last week, the second compensation payment to dairy farmers was completed for a total of almost $460 million. Yesterday, our government announced the details of new programs for the 4,800 chicken, turkey, and egg producers in Canada. Can the Prime Minister tell us more about this excellent news for our egg and poultry producers?
Le très honorable Premier Ministre.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Was there a problem?
For Kingston, the Islands.
In the past, Mr. Speaker, when technical difficulties like this have popped up, you've allowed for the question to be re-asked.
Yeah, no, and that's fair. No, I just, the way it stopped, I wasn't sure whether it was the end of his question, but the Honourable Member for Glengarry Prescott Russell, if you can start over and then we'll continue from there, please.
Monsieur le Président, notre gouvernement...
Mr. Speaker, our government is committed to protecting and supporting our agricultural producers and providing full and fair compensation to supply managed sectors due to market losses arising from recent free trade agreements. Last week, the second payment to compensate dairy producers was completed for a total of nearly $460 million. Yesterday, our government announced the details of new programs for the 4,800 chicken, turkey, and egg producers in Canada. Can the Prime Minister tell us more about this excellent news for our egg and poultry producers?
Honorable Premier Ministre.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank the member for Glengarry Prescott Russell for his constant support to farmers. Poultry and egg producers will receive financial assistance in proportion to their quota. 70% of the $630 million program is supported by our government, with producers investing the remaining 30%. For producers who are 35 and under, the government will contribute 85%. $61 million will also be spent on a turkey and chicken market development program. I would like to thank everyone. I would like to take the opportunity to thank all Canadian farmers for their exemplary work.
Mr. Speaker, we have another East Coast lobster dispute. The Fisheries Minister has said moderate livelihood lobster fishing by Indigenous communities will follow existing DFO seasons, regulations, and enforcement rules. But the Liberal MP for Sydney, Victoria has said this is wrong. And the Minister's announcement is only for this year. It's an interim measure. And First Nations will be allowed to set their own seasons and rules. Are Liberals mistaking voters for lobsters, heading to the traps and to the dinner tables?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, reconciliation is about recognizing rights that are not to be granted by governments, but are recognized as have been decided in many cases decades ago. We are working closely both with commercial fishermen and Mi'kmaq fishers to ensure that we're moving forward in a way that is both scientifically sustainable and respects the existing rights that Mi'kmaq have towards a moderate livelihood. We know that there is a path forward, and we look forward to continuing to work in constructive ways to resolve this challenge in the spirit of reconciliation and for a better future for everyone.
The honourable member for New Brunswick Southwest.
In fact, no one is disputing those rights at all. What we're questioning here are the various stories we're getting from this government. And I've discovered that the fisheries minister flip-flopped and admitted to CBC Radio that the Liberal government's lobster announcement for fishing is, quote, a plan for this season or for this year, end quote. Well, the lobster is out of the pot. But this is not what maritime Liberal MPs are telling voters down east. Would the PM like to confirm his government is not being straight with maritime fishing families?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, every step of the way we've worked to respect people's rights, to respect people's livelihoods, to move forward in a way that ensures a strong and growing economy with opportunities for everyone in the spirit of reconciliation. It is not an easy thing, Mr. Speaker, but it is an important thing, and that's why we are taking it seriously and working step by step to advance in a way that is acceptable to everyone. We will continue to do the right work the right way to move this country forward.
The honourable member for New Brunswick Southwest.
Except the government and the Prime Minister's not being clear with Canadians. And it sounds like this is nothing but a pre-election campaign gimmick to protect Liberal candidates with a policy of deception to secure votes. And the Fisheries Minister's plan will change the day after the next election if this government is re-elected. Does voting Liberal down east mean a vote to allow a separate Indigenous lobster fisheries outside existing DFO seasons, regulations, and enforcement rules? Can the Prime Minister confirm which message is correct? What the Fisheries Minister tells Ottawa, or what the Fisheries Minister is telling voters down east?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we have been clear every step of the way, both about ongoing negotiations and also about our values, about our understanding of how important it is to move forward in true reconciliation in partnership with Indigenous peoples in ways that supports families that have been fishing in that region for generations. We know this is an extremely important issue. We're going to continue those discussions and negotiations in good faith to make sure that we find the right solution for everyone, Indigenous fishers, commercial fishers, and everyone who lives in the Atlantic provinces and indeed across the country.
The honourable member for Markham-Stouffville.
Mr. Speaker, in a time when women have been disproportionately impacted by the pandemic, the opposition wants to add to their burden by taking away their right to choose. Women's advocacy groups disagree with the extreme measures proposed in Bill C-233. This is not the time to debate women's rights. It's the time to uplift and support their economic recovery. Will the Prime Minister recommit to this House that he will always stand up for a woman's right to choose?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
I thank the honourable member for Markham-Stouffville for her question and her strong leadership. Women and women alone have the right to make decisions about their own bodies. While the Leader of the Opposition is allowing an anti-abortion bill to be introduced, our government has and always will defend women's reproductive choice in Canada. We've taken action to protect this right, including repealing outdated sections in the Criminal Code, investing in groups like Planned Parenthood, and easing restrictions on Plan B to help increase its accessibility. We will always defend women's rights while Conservative politicians try to restrict them.
The honourable member for Windsor West.
Mr. Speaker, the government has done nothing to stop the NAV Canada studies to close flight control towers at airports across the country, which would shut them down. Removing air traffic control services at airports would threaten public safety and eliminate jobs. The Liberals know I proposed legislative fixes, Bill C-278, which would give the government the power to save these airports. So far, 2 transport ministers have failed to act, putting Canadian lives and jobs at risk. Now is the time to decide. No more excuses, no more hiding. Will the Prime Minister use the NDP solution to protect these airports?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as Canadians have seen through this pandemic, our priority remains the safety and security of Canadians at all times. We're watching closely NAV Canada as it moves forwards in its deliberations, and we will ensure every step of the way that the safety, security, and indeed prosperity of Canadians is not put at risk.
I'm afraid that's all the time we have for question period today. C'est tout le temps que nous avons. L'honorable.
The honourable member for Salaberry-sur-Roi has a point of order. Mr. Speaker, as you know, since the beginning of the pandemic, we have tried to emphasize the importance of respecting quorum, the dress code here in the House, and I think that today we have we've set a new record. We've seen a member during question period improperly dressed, that is unclothed. So perhaps remind the members, especially the male members, that suits and ties are appropriate, or rather called for. And we have seen that the member was in very good shape, but I think that this member should be reminded of what is appropriate and to control his camera. Thank you. Thank you. I would like to thank the honourable member for her observations. I missed that, but as she was speaking, I spoke with the technicians, and indeed they did see something. And what I would like to do is to remind the members that when they are at home, they must be aware that there is a camera and a microphone, and they need to be aware of their functioning.
Point of order, arising on the same point of order.
Mr. Speaker. During the question period today, the Conservatives referred to the first female justice minister who they actually misquoted that. It's actually Kim Campbell. Now, I would recognize that they probably don't know that because that was a different Conservative Party of a different time. But the first female justice minister was.
I want to thank the honourable member for that information, but it's starting to turn into debate at this point. The honourable member for Lakeland is rising on a point of order.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. I believe that if you seek it, you will find unanimous consent for the following motion: that given A, the risk to Canada's national security posed by Huawei; B, the fact that China's national security laws require all companies to, quote, support, assist, and cooperate with China's Communist Party intelligence work; C, the fact that Canada's Five Eyes partners have already banned Huawei; and D, the government's failure to respond to a motion passed in the House on November 20th, 2020, calling on the government to ban Huawei. The House repeat its call on the government to ban Huawei from Canada's 5G network.
All those opposed to the honourable member moving the motion will please say nay. I'm afraid we don't have agreement on that. There is another point of order. The honourable member for Wellington, Halton Hills.
Mr. Speaker, there have been consultations amongst the parties, and I believe if you seek it, you will find the unanimous consent of the House for the following motion.
It's just
that this House, A, agree with the statement of the Vice President of the Halifax International Security Forum that with respect to
Member for a moment. I'm going to interrupt him for a moment. I'm going to ask him to start over. But before he does, I'm going to ask all the members who are joining us virtually to please turn off their microphones if they are not speaking. The honourable member for Wellington, Halton Hills, please start from the beginning.
Mr. Speaker, there have been consultations amongst the parties, and I believe if you seek it, you will find unanimous consent of the House for the following motion. That this House, A, agree with the statement of the Vice President of the Halifax International Security Forum that with respect to the John McCain Prize for Leadership in Public Service, President Tsai Ing-wen of Taiwan is a well-respected international leader, the first female president of Taiwan, and a strong global advocate for democracy. She would certainly be an ideal fit for this award. And B, calls on the government to continue funding the forum at current levels, even if the John McCain Prize is presented to President Tsai Ing-wen.
All those opposed to the honourable member moving the motion will please say nay. Agreed? The House has heard the terms of the motion. All those opposed to the motion will please say nay. It's carried. We have a point of order from the honourable member for Outremont.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. During a debate at the Late Show last night, I mistakenly claimed that the member from Calgary, Nose Hill, signed a letter calling for an end to the lockdowns that are helping protect our most vulnerable from COVID-19. I was wrong. It was a tweet in support of ending lockdowns, which was reported by the Western Standard as MP for Calgary, Nose Hill joins Alberta UCP MLAs in blasting Kenny's third COVID lockdown. I do apologize for the error and ask that the record be corrected, Mr. Speaker.
I want to thank the honourable member for that clarification. We have a point of order for the member for Carleton. Okay. Je m'excuse, l'honorable député.
The honourable member for Mégantic-Clérable has a point of order. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The interpreter must apologize but cannot hear. I must interrupt the honourable member. If he could lower his microphone boom. Thank you very much. Oh, thank you. During question period today, Mr. Speaker, I did not want to not show respect for Kim Campbell, the first female Minister of Justice in Canada. And I want to say that I recognize that Ms. Campbell held that position. I wanted to say that the Prime Minister kicked out the first Aboriginal Minister of Justice. That is what I should have said. Thank you.
We'll proceed. Comme il est 15 heures.
It being 3:20, pursuant to order made on January 25th, 2021, the House will now proceed to the taking of the deferred recorded divisions on the motions at report stage of Bill C-224 under private members' business. Call in the members.